So I just want to welcome everybody. Um, Today we'll be doing a guidance where we'll sort of bathe in presence and perhaps also transform the way we understand presence. Okay? So just take a moment to get settled down. And of course, throughout the guidance, don't try to grasp at the words already that have already been said, right? There's sometimes a tendency to try to understand mentally or think of what is being said. Know that there's no room for that during the guidance. During the guidance, just be fully here and just allow the words that are happening to happen. If the understanding of them is happening, that's fine. If it's not, then that's fine too. Just continue to just allow the words to flow, not grasping at anything that has been said or trying to make something of, you know, of what is being said. And during any moment of silence throughout the guidance, just continue to acknowledge the mental chatter, which is being lit up by the presence, rather than just being so immersed in what is being lit up by the presence. Return to acknowledging the presence itself. So, do first and foremost acknowledge that there is a very self evident presence right now. The, the sense of knowledge, knowing, being present is what you also call the now, what you also feel as realness, aliveness. Take a moment to acknowledge that sense of realness about right now, the realness that is here, the realness that is very self evident, the presence which you cannot deny. Because even the thought that would try to deny presence itself has no reality apart from presence, has no existence outside of a presence. So when we usually say my presence, what we are just referring to is me as this body, I have a presence. Me as this person, this name, this history or this story, right, has a presence. This is the idea that will be greatly challenged in today's guidance. In today's guidance. And I don't need you to reject this statement or even throw it away. I just want you to be open to the possibility that this presence is not emanating from the body, that the presence is not being produced by the mind. Just be open to that possibility. So, could it be when you say my presence, we're not referring to the body's presence or the mind's presence? What is more intimate to you? Is it the experience of the body or presence? It's not to be thought about, but to actually just seen in your direct experience what is closer than close, what is priormost, primary. The experience of your body is always changing. Does presence ever change? The thoughts that are always arising and subsiding are always changing. Does presence ever change? Is the sense of I, the sense of me, separate from presence? Take a moment to notice this. Instead of thinking about it, resort to your experience of me. The word me is just a word, but what is it pointing to? your direct experience of myself? Is it apart from presence? Could it be that the presence that does not change is what I feel as the me that does not change? Because even though the body changes, even though the personality changes, I still say I am me. I am always myself. Could it be that I am more my presence than I am the experience of the body and what the body does and the experience of the thoughts and what they think? Is the changeless you more you or less you than the changeful you? Is it more truthful or less truthful? Could it be that the source of this presence is not the body? It is not the personality. Could it be that the source of this presence, of this aliveness, of this sense of realness, is reality itself, truth, God? So, when we say bathe in this presence, In whose presence are we bathing? Be open to the possibility that the presence is of that principle which you seek as something higher than yourself, as being beyond phenomena, birth and death. It is its presence that you take to be the body's presence. Just being open to that possibility. Don't grasp at these words. Don't try to break them apart. Just let them flow. Just acknowledge that all is being lit up by that very presence. Could it be that this presence is the shadow of the truth, the presence of the truth, the reflection of the truth? But again, is that truth, that greater reality, is it separate from you? Do you not also experience this as my presence? So then, what is this me whose presence it is? That is the thing being challenged, being brought under the scope of our observation. If the mind is all over the place right now, just acknowledge in whose presence is even the mind being seen? Is it not being lit up by something with which it is known? Is it not that very same presence we speak of? We are not concerned with these temporary appearances that are arising and subsiding right now. These thoughts, these sensations right now have no value, are of no interest to us. We are looking at the light itself, not what the light is lighting up. Could it be that the source of this light that we call presence is beyond this realm of experience, this realm of duality, this realm of birth and death? Just be open to that possibility. See that anything in your life that you bring into the light of this conscious presence, it becomes cleansed, it becomes sort of purified. You experience more truthfulness, harmony, purity, which we personally call well being, right? So, in whose presence do these things, do all of our personal qualities become purified? You see, this is your inner temple. Is there a need to go to an outer temple and worship something else where the presence of truth is the closest to you, even closer than the experience of your body, even closer to you than the experience of your mind? Worship this presence, not in the form of ideas, but just with your noticing, with your acknowledging, with your love of it. When we bathe in this presence, free of ideas, free of chatter, then your concept of who you are, your self image, your understanding of who you are itself becomes purified. It begins to disidentify from the things your presence lights up, like your body, like your thoughts. It begins to remember itself as it really is. All that veils the truth of what you are and what life is, of what is reality, begins to be cleansed and purified through this very presence, which is at no distance or separation from you. It is not somebody else's presence. It is not something else's presence. It is my presence. But the I whose presence it is, that is being cleansed of all of its ideas, all of the misconceptions. All that you consider to be important, all of your personal endeavors, everything is just an appearance in the light of this presence. The moment this light is diffused, it will vanish. There's no reality to it. But that whose presence it is, will that principle vanish? That which is beyond the realm of appearances, whose presence this is, whose shadow this presence is, will that principle vanish? There's nothing to think about here. No thought can be of value in this inquiry. All that you work so hard to figure out with your thoughts can be surrendered to this presence. Surrender to this presence, to the silence of this presence, and everything, right? The understanding will construct itself. It will come of its own. But you must take the step, right? To give yourself wholeheartedly to this presence rather than just being immersed in the objects that this presence is lighting up, than being immersed in the pursuits of the person you take to be so real and immortal. Because to discover the truth of yourself, it takes a certain passion for the truth, a desire for the truth. So continue to consider the possibility that this presence is not the body's presence, is not this person's presence, but it is the presence of that ultimate truth, that ultimate reality. But at the same time, continue to acknowledge that this presence is also my presence. Perhaps I am that ultimate truth, that ultimate reality. Just maybe. Considering this, bathe and bask in this presence. For all your activities, all your thoughts, all your feelings, and your understanding. of yourself, of life, will be cleansed, purified, and brought into the correct view, correct understanding, just by the mere surrendering to this presence. So that is my pointer for you today. That is what I would like you to perhaps even contemplate throughout the day. Sit with this, let this open up the next level of understanding. If there is something that is saying, but this is too complex or too subtle for me to understand, again, surrender to that very presence that we're speaking of. You can get there mentally. You can get there by figuring out things, okay? Perhaps there can be certain time for that, but ultimately, surrender to this silence, because in it, all will, again, the understanding will construct itself. So consider that possibility, sit with that possibility, and let this pointer, stick with you throughout the day. And so, and Nathan, as you said, more thoughts arise during guided meditations. It is true, and that's okay. The purpose of these guidances is not just to give you a little sort of experience, a meditative experience, but to really open the limits of your mind more and more so that you can sit in silence with this even more. So I know today's guidance was a little more wordy, but it's okay. Let that be. Sometimes there will be guidances where we'll sort of be more silent and still, but sometimes we these powerful pointers, they do provoke the thought, but again, if you follow the pointer, it's leading you to something even greater. So thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us for today's meditation. For those of you who are in the self-inquiry program, I'll see you also later today for our Q&A. But thank you, everybody. Again, sit with this. You could even watch the recording again if you'd like. I'll post it soon. All right, so everybody have a great rest of your day. I'll see you next time. Thank you.